Hey Rebecca, this is Mark Barkley, TruServe coordinator at the Center for Rural Health in North Dakota. And since you've never seen TruServe before, I thought I would just do a quick recording here just to kind of give you some of the highlights. So basically, if you were to set something up like this, or if we were to start promoting this to some of the networks that you work with, you can see this is a web-based system. They would have their own unique URL, so every network would have their own website essentially. And then every staff person at that individual network would have their own username and password. So that's what we would set up all of that from our end. Excuse me. So once they would get to their own website, put in their username and password, they click login. And then so TruServe is really meant to serve as kind of a data collection hub. So if you can imagine those folks at the network during their day-to-day business, entering the things that they do in real time, so that anytime they need any information, whether it be for a federal report or some other sort of report, they don't have to put together a bunch of spreadsheets and go through emails, that sort of thing. They can just come to TruServe, run a report, and they can get charts, maps, anything they need right from TruServe. So everything that we do in the system as far as data entering is called an activity. So if I jump into one of these activities here, you can see the last 5 recently added activities, so you can see what folks are doing around your office. If I jump into one of them here, you can see this is the information we capture for activities: title, start date, length of time. So any of these things that we put into the system later becomes a report we can run. So we could later say, show me all of the things that we've done that had a state reach or a national reach, where they happened. I mentioned TruServe does mapping, so you can produce maps showing your impact around the state and around the nation. The other thing with TruServe is all of these fields and all of these measures that we're looking at are customizable to the organization that's using it. So if, let's say that we had a group of 10 networks that wanted to start using TruServe, I could work with you. We could work all together to kind of determine what they need to track, and then we could kind of create some measures in TruServe so that all 10 of those organizations were using at least a few common measures to track things in TruServe related to what they need for their federal reporting requirements. But in addition to those common measurements, of course, they could have their own customized things too. So like, for example, if I go under reach, these categories under reach are arbitrary. They could say whatever you wanted them to say. So we would certainly work with the individual organizations using this to help them customize TruServe to the level that they would need. So, and then you can also see over here that these fields that are bolded, we have some flexibility with those too. Assistance level, that's related to the State Office of Rural Health grant, for example. So we might change the label on that assistance level, and it could just be another generic drop-down field for something. So keep that in mind, that basically all of these fields are customizable, and we could work with you to kind of set that up how it worked best. So information, then over here on the next tab we go to categories. We have a few more kind of taxonomy type of fields here. So activity type, focuses, which is a multi-select, so you can see, again, all of these are arbitrary. They can all be customized. If you hover over them, you get definitions. So, we said here we did a presentation, and we can go through and we can tag, the presentation was on community development, workforce, etc. But again, all of these things could say whatever the network wanted them to say. Programs and goals, these are basically how, they were funded. So for state offices of rural health, you can see we have the SOAR grant. People will have things like flex, PCO, SHIP, workforce. Again, I'm not as familiar with networks, but I know you guys would have different streams of money. So this is kind of where we separate, how was this activity funded? So you could imagine, some different HRSA grants here, and then they could attach goals to those as well. And again, we set up all of this on our end for them. And all of this, of course, is customizable. So if you click, if I click 3RNet here, you can see the goals pop down. So not only are the programs customizable, but also the goals. And then the last thing we typically use is this orgs and people category here. So we're just looking at a demo account right now, so you can see some of this stuff is just kind of a sandbox of information, but this is where you capture what people you worked with. So were you working with a critical access hospital, a FQHC, a rural health clinic, that sort of thing. So they would just start typing in the name of the organization they were working with, and then you can see it comes up from a list, and we pre-populate that list for them. So we would take all of the organizations that they've worked with in the past, and we would put them into the system for them. But they can always add new organizations at any time as well. So if I was to add a new organization, let's see, say I was working with NCHN, I could give it a type. So each organization also has a type. And this list, of course, is also customizable. So we would examine the kind of types of organizations your networks are working with, and we'd plug that in here. So I could say, NCHN. I don't know if we probably don't have something in here for you guys, but we could just say, you guys are, I don't know, a rural health clinic for this instance. And then we also give you a location. So, if you were based out of Dover, Delaware, for example, this location field, similar to the on the information tab, you just start typing in the name of your city, so whatever it is, and then the system will pre-populate for you based on an existing database of U.S. cities across the nation. So you could say, Alden, Iowa, for example. And then what's cool about here for organizations is when we produce those maps later, so if I go ahead and add you, you're now attached to our activity down here, NCHN, along with these other hospitals that we worked with, for example. But all of the locations of these organizations that you can see here also get mapped. So if you're doing a webinar and there's 20 folks on the webinar from all around the country, if you attach those 20 organizations to your activity, all 20 locations of those would show up on your map later when you run that report. So again, kind of a neat feature there. So you can also attach files, of course, PowerPoints, Word documents, whatever you need. It's web-based, so you could access it anywhere. And then folks can always see a summary of what they've added. So we also, in addition to adding an activity like that I just showed you, we do have a template feature. So folks can create templates of things they do every day or every week or whatever. So instead of having to go through and fill out every single field, they can just set and say, okay, this is the weekly email I send out to our contacts, and just kind of use a template and change the date, really save them some time when they're adding things. So then once you get all of your information kind of added in there, of course, so at any time you could come over here to the reporting section and say, you could go through and say, okay, pick out our date range. So there's not too much data in this system, so I'll go back to, say, 2014. So this would right now show me every activity from May 1st, 2014 to May 31st, 2016, but then I could go in and I could filter that by anything. So I could say, instead of seeing all of the activity types, I only want to see the presentations we've done. So keep in mind that all of these things that we're filtering by in here, these are all those customized measures we talked about earlier. So whatever those customized measures are that we would come up with for the networks, those later become the filtering parameters they can use. And they can stack as many on top of each other as they want. So like I said, what's kind of neat about this is we can basically backtrack. We can look at what information do they need at the end of the year, or what information do they need to report upon, and then we can kind of set the system up using the different kind of levels and the different fields and the different customizations we have, so that they can easily come in here, click a few buttons, and get the reports that they want. So I'm just going to leave these filters blank for now. You can also filter by orgs and people. So you could say, show me the times we've only worked with, rural health clinics or whatever, like that. Select output. So this is where you get kind of your outputs, but I'm just going to start with a list here. So if I click this 158 records match my search. So we've done 158 activities since May 1st to 2014 to May 31st, 2016. You can go through, you could see all of the information here, but where this really gets cool then is if I would have selected some outputs. So I can do all of this from this page too. So if I go select outputs, and then I'm just going to click some of these different fields just to give you an idea here too. So I'm not changing the search parameters here, so we're going to still be looking at the same 158 activities, but when I click apply, now the system is going to take those 158 activities and break them up into different ways of looking at them. So now I can see, of those 158 records, how do they break up across the country? We've done 126 things in North Dakota, 18 things in Montana, etc., etc. How do they break up by my state? So by county and my state. So we would identify the network, the state that the network's in, and we would load that map in here for them. How do they break up by activity type? So like I said, all of these are those customized measures we created earlier. So 158 records, 54 of them were technical assistance, 19 of them were recruitment retention. What's neat about all of these charts and maps too is you can save them. So if I click this download button, you can save them as images, and then you can go ahead and embed those into Word documents or PowerPoints or whatever you need to. And then if you're not comfortable with charts, you can also just look at the raw data here as well. So it's just some different other things here. by focus, again, all of these things would basically be the labels that we would come up with for those networks that would potentially be using TruServe. So out of 158 activities, the focus of 41 of them were workforce, National Service Corps Technical Assistance 16, et cetera, modes, same thing, how are we doing things, email, face-to-face. Organization types, so out of those 158 records, we worked with 27 different community health centers, we worked with 11 different free clinics, 9 different dentists, and then if you don't, you can look at that and get your bulk data, but you could always come down here too. So we see that we worked with 4 330 sites here on our chart. So we can go down to this list and we can see what those 4 330 sites are that we worked with in these 158 activities. So 123 Hospital was a 330 site and we worked with them 13 times. Whereas All True Health Clinic is a 330 site, but we only worked with them 4 times. So it just gives people the power to be able to quickly come in here, see a bunch of information, including who they're working with, how many times they've touched people across their state, across the nation, etc. Also broke up by programs, of course, and by program goals. So again, all of this data is showing those 158 activities. And then again, combine all of this data that you can find with all of those filters we could have used. And again, these reports become very, very customized. So we're looking at just a hodgepodge of data here, but we could have easily went in and said, show me just everything we've done related to a certain project, and then this data might mean a lot more. And like I said, this is just a demo system, so it's hard to kind of get the true meaning of it. But again, keep in mind that you can customize basically everything. So you can customize the measures you're tracking upon, which later become the reporting filters, and then you can kind of pick and choose any of these different graphs or charts that you need at any time as well. So that was just a quick overview. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context again, since you've never even seen TruServe live. So let me know, you and Terrell, if you guys need anything, have any questions. Hopefully you guys are able to chat on Friday, and certainly you don't need me for that call. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've been doing this since 2010, and I've kind of been involved with it since about 2010, here and there. So we have a great partnership, and we're really happy to help you in any way that you need. So like I said, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.